of this one day national seminar, my friend and very dynamic person, and out of that I should talk. He is the president of Marathi Arthashastra Parishad, means he is the leader of our economics in Maharashtra. Also, other guests or dignitaries like Patil sir from Kirti College, Pawar sir from Kirti College, Board of Study Chairman, Rural Development. Also, the BOS Chairman of Geography, Patil sir, Rajaram Patil sir. Uh, my dear colleague, Geography Department Head, Sanjukta Satar Madam. Uh, Again, that the Archana Gurgule Madam, as well as the respected all the dignitaries who presented their views and present for this one day seminar. Particularly convener of this seminar, Professor and in charge of humanity section, Dr. Balasaheb Pawar sir, Balasaheb Patil sir, sorry. त्याचबरोबर co-coordinator of this seminar, Narkire sir, Geography Department, IPSC coordinator, Hagav sir, all the committee members of this national seminar, organizing committee members, faculty members, members from the different colleges, particularly came here for the attending of the seminar. My friend and in charge principal Karande sir, Patil sir from Ambaler College, other many faculties. I am looking here from the different college. Budwan sir, I am not able to take all the names, but all the respected faculties, research students, and dear student participants. First of all, I am expressing my privilege and gratitude for invitation of this occasion as a national seminar, and I would like to congratulate to the organizer, Balasai Patil sir and your team for the selection of this theme of the seminar, which is very relevant. As our friend Vavare sir mentioned that this is the theme very much going to discuss at the international level, and you linked it with the Millennium Development Goal, which are the very crucial for the means for the checking and measurement of the qualitative indices of the countries. Various views which are presented before in this session, which are the very relevant. He were means my friend Sir Vavre sir covered many things. Then I will try to touch the remaining things which are there, and I will talk all the things which with the PPT based on the Niti Aayog report, based on the economic survey, MOSPI data, and RBI's data. On the basis of that, I am going to talk briefly about this as my time schedule. Dear friends, we are now going through the very transforming phase. At the domestic level, if you check that in the economic purview, we are now as a country are in the very much dilemma of transforming phase, because now we are a country which having the high growth rate as per the data sources, growth rate of the country, which indicates that the relatively GDP growth rate is around, which are as an average 7% or around that, or 10%. But as rightly mentioned in the quantitative thing, we are on the good path of growth rate. But as a student of economics, our researcher of the economics, I would say that imprecisely, when we are talking about the high growth rate, when that growth has come, if there is the poor scenario, then the rate of growth we are going to on the higher growth rate. If the student is suppose on the 100% or suppose 90% in this year, and if you going to the suppose 99%, so there is no scope for more growth rate, means it's a saturation level. Means when we are talking about our growth rate as a students and researcher, we must know that it means this is not only quantitative method ki we can say our growth rate is better, means we are on the better position, because it is indicating our that the scope of improvement. Okay, so almost means I will try to combine the both views, means what is the present scenario based on the reports and what are the challenges. As I mentioned in my title, I will talk about the optimistic status of the India and challenges. So in the quantum, we are good in the growth rate as mentioned in the first slide. And what is the growth rate resilience after the COVID also we maintain well. That is the success of economy. External sectors as shown in the PPT or slide, which performing better as a fourth largest forex earnings in the terms of crores in the US dollar, which has shown in the around a 61,800 crores is a big kind of figure, which shows the better achievement in the external stability or earnings. As same in the financial stability, India is growing with the credit growth of the double up digit with the financial year recent like the 24, which was around as per the CAGR, because when we are talking about the growth rate, we should go with the CAGR compounder, that the rate of annual rate, that the CAGR representing is the real thing or real pattern of the country, which shows up the 16%. Fiscal stability of the country, if you see macroeconomic variable, what shows that the fiscal stability of the country, we say that the fiscal deficit target which maintain little bit relative to the earlier period, it means like the 4.5% which shown as per this data source of the report, government report particularly. It means we are a little bit okay in the maintenance of this in the finance fiscal stability. Price stability, if you check relativity of this price stability, means inflation rate. As you know that the price, how the going to hike, is considered in the inflation rate. So we are maintaining or around the 5%. Earlier time it was around the, in if you go about the period of last 2 decades, particularly 2001 to 2010, it was around 6%, or in an average 5.5 to 6%. It was called that the Hindu growth rate term or that terminology. Now we are little bit maintaining like the 4.5%, and as per the target of 25.6, that maintenance of the 4.5 is there. That also shows that the GFCF, this is the actually we can call that the rate of investment like that, which having the better position about the 35%, and is in the terms of this investment is depend on the saving rates. It indicates that saving rate of the country, and this the terminology GFCF, which talks about the little bit better position as per the index. Capex also shows that the expenditure of the country, which is having the position of 2% to the GDP, and it was in the earlier time like the 5%. So means capital expenditure, which are also means indicating that the macroeconomic variable is in little, the fluctuations condition. The last point of that is the digital transactions, which are increasing with the very dynamic rate, which notably mentioned from the 4% to 76%, which indicates the improvement. As you know that the with the reforms in the ICT, we able to success in the increment of this quantum, good kind of quantum. Now this all the macroeconomic variables says this kind of status of economy is the, like, somewhere is the better and somewhere is the now required to improvement. What are the opportunities concerned to this improvement? There is a quickly mentioned as sir touched for the demographic dividend issue. When we are talking about the India is the young country, as per the young aspirations and society, India is the country which is called in the age of 30 years, or dominance of this age group which we have. That is truth. This is an opportunity to country to go ahead and take the or attract the more demographic dividend. But here as a challenge we should think about that, is it possible to country? Because if we will not success or not utilize this the potential of youth, in the development process, then that could be the harmful for the country. And that's why I said we are in the transformation phase, because we are recently implementing the new education policy. It has so many challenges to attract this demographic dividend. When we are talking about the demographic dividend, from where we are attracting the demographic dividend, where is the scope for demographic dividend? If we could provide more our IT resources, then we are able to get, because we are the best exporter of the IT peoples and resources in the world. But now in the NEP, are we growing for that? Are we able to utilize this the potential of youth in the that attraction? That is the, I think, thing, or that is the required to look in the seriously about this use of the demographic dividend when we are looking and talking about this. Now if you check about the country or world, so particularly about the India is now, which are in the terms of that, in the Niti Aayog document, it talks about the middle income class. Means India is now in the most of around 61%, they are in the middle, that the income group, and that class represent their daily needs and their expenditures, which are not much success to convert in the savings and investment, means in the capex, or if you talk in the GFCF, we require to increase this group or transform this group from the middle income group to higher income group, which is the necessity, but this has shows the opportunity for country to increase our this kind of, again, the middle income group status. We have projected that the strong around a 60.6.5, as per the IMF support, and a robust domestic demand country, means we have large size of the population. Next, we have large size of the population. This is the asset also for country, because if you see the some kind of crisis which proved that the country with success for maintaining of the growth rate and some demand due to the high population and this kind of opportunity. So we should utilize this kind of domestic demand as per their requirement and as per the requirement of the variety of the consumption. So this is the challenge for all these three sectors, is primary, secondary and tertiary, to cope with the new variety of consumption. Then we can take that or consider as an opportunity for the country. Okay, fine. Now just move over this things about the growth and resilient recovery from the COVID. What is the structural break shows that a very quick estimation shows that the country having the GDP's real growth rate like this, which was little, as I mentioned in the earlier time, that the 7 to 8%, or always it was target in the last, that Finance Commission and Niti Aayog, sorry, that the Planning Commission and Niti Aayog around the 10%. But okay, as shown this the things which are happen with the growth rate, we can say that that fluctuations and volatility which is there, which is more there in the our growth rate. If you see why this is the result of this, that the sustained structural reform and resilient recovery period or phase. If you see about the COVID, after the COVID, we cover up like the boosting in the growth rate like 9% as per the data sources, and now little bit going in the later period, that the downward trend in the financial year 23. If you see the key glimpses of that success or maintaining, or what we use that the resilient recovery period for the growth rate, which indicates in the bottom level that the results of the bad loans clearance is better. This some indicators shows the better things about the GST collections, about the improvement in the digital boom and capital adequacy ratio. We are a little bit tolerate about the inflation and other things. So all these the data sources highlighting that the the inflation, and if you look about the growth rate, there are some kind of that links, and there is the partial success we seen from the data sources. Now move for the challenges and the navigations are through the potential that the uncertainties in the Indian economy, which talks about the few things are very important. So I think as per time schedule, I will try to go little fast because this is the six things which we require to check about the Indian economy when we are talking about the India's potential and challenges and growth stories. So these are the like the geographical crisis, trade, investment, structural imbalance, lack of macroeconomic that consensus, and frontier technologies are the key issues to check about the Indian economy. Particularly, if we are when we are talking about the resilient growth, about the different that the geographical or geopolitical crisis, that geopolitical crisis which affected to the few things like a Red Sea crisis, as you know, at the global level. This crisis somewhere narrowed down the economic transition of the world due to this kind of crisis. This kind of direct impact happened with the Indian, that the exports and import means international trade, as well as for the world also it disrupting to the good kind of achievement, as mentioned in the impact of global economy. Impact on the Indian economy, if you look that the notable thing around the 80% of the export to EU which passed through this Red Sea. As you know that the issue and conflict of the that Red Sea crisis, which is between the Israel and Yemen, that the Iran, which was that targeting and not allowing to that the transportation. So we are getting crisis and hampering our international trade. That's it. If you see the another crisis, geopolitical crisis as a Russian-Ukraine crisis also impact on the economy, as global economy, it's directly impact on the supply chain, export and import. It has impacted global growth of the that fall from the 3.4% to 2.8% as per the data sources due to this kind of crisis. Impact on the India, slowdown, fees, economic growth struggled, and it shows that the domestic prices which shown at least means have hampered from this kind of crisis, and disruption of the around two trade routes like Russia and Ukraine. Means this is the international crisis, geopolitical crisis, shows that the impact, specific measurable government measurement which taken for the tackle of this kind of crisis, which was related to the price stability, means RBI were raised little bit that the repo rate, and they were used at the fiscal measures for the saving or for the defense of this international crisis. So this is the reality from the international geopolitical crisis. Means we can say this is the elements which we have challenges to maintain with our policy measures. Means that the government role which is more important in this concern. If you look about the second era of this country, which are as a challenges also or as an opportunity also, which is concerned with trade, investment, and GVC, which says that the trade about the global trade growth, which about the country shows that the slowdowns in the period of that the last decade at the global level also, which shows the world trade growth, which has little bit in an average position, which estimates below level in the early due to the earlier period. It also shows that the FDI's position, international events, which little bit reduce this the opportunity from the different country. Here about the impact of COVID in the investors of India, directly 83 billion US dollar that the FDI which was removed, or they were removed their investment from the country. And macro as a macroeconomic stability, exchange rate also which was affected from this kind of COVID crisis. Now, if you see the current opportunity for country in the FDI recently, as you know that the some kind of initiatives has been taken as a global event for the attraction of more foreign direct investment, and country taking effort for the Vikashit Bharat through this kind of movements. So this is the reality. About the that another parameter of GVC, which talks about the import of the country, which is critically said that the phase of the crude oil which suffer from this kind of value chain. Similarly, critical mineral supply chain also hampered at the global level. Shifts from the clean energy to as a environmental and that issue. There is also shows that the critical issue to maintenance of the this kind of GVC at the global level and domestic level. So as a country, we have challenged to increase this the GVC at the international level because it is the macroeconomic indicator which helps to understand how the country means at the domestic level and as the international level attract the more gross fixed capital formation and through the GVC how to use more demographic dividend or foreign earnings through this kind of participation of global value chain. Okay, so this is also as a challenge of country we require to move preparation for the attract of the more earnings. Similarly, if you check that the structural imbalance of the middle income trap in the present concern opportunities for future, which has in the agricultural sector, particularly as sir mentioned that the agriculture we are still calling India is the agricultural country, but how much we are receiving from the agriculture sector is the question because from the initial level we seen that the contribution of agriculture which was much in the GDP now we reduce it up to the 15% around. And another thing, this is the steel sector which has dominance of the more employment, but again, one that as data shows that the 45% of the disguised unemployment which is there working in the sector, it means we are not much capable to take the structural benefits from this sector. This is challenge for country to how to use it for the more income sources. So these are the glimpses talks about the employability from this sector. Agriculture sector having now a good growth of the not a growth but it's called that the total production level is better about this sector. But if you check about the input cost of the farmer which is relatively high than the output, it means if you check in the real term in the India, like the in the Maharashtra or India, that is the more or big issue of the farmer is related to the high input cost, relatively low benefits from the agricultural sector. So this is also now we required to brought more income from this the proper utilization management in the irrigation and other sectors because this sector having the more crisis from the climatic conditions also because so it is the interlink. That's why I think as you just selected this theme which is very much relevant. Without this kind of support of the other these things we can't imagine the development of the any sector. So agricultural sector due to this kind of few crises, particularly from the climatic conditions and other issues, it is suffered. And for the data sources, it is I think in the next slide shows that how much we are suffering from the climatic crisis and that. Here, as mentioned, the focus area to avoid the middle income trap is that upskilling and enhancement of the productivity of the that youth, particularly young group, and it is the only I feel that, and we also it's my personal view also because without education we can't upskill about students or youth for these kind of benefits. And if we success for the PM Kushal or whatever the schemes are introduced for this kind of skilling, education like the Samagra Shiksha and Rashtriya Uchatar Shiksha, health, Ayushman Bharat, and all these kind of recent schemes, which how much will be success to upskill that the skill of the youth. It will be I think main related to the demo attraction of the demographic dividend. If you will not success then definitely it will be negative impact, and that's why that the focus must be there now, a proper management of the HR. As sir given that example of the Japan. Now most of the European countries also in that phase, they don't have much young peoples, working peoples in the country. So we have that opportunity, but we should capture this opportunity through the upskills of the youth and their proper utilization in the coming days. So this is the trap we can I think crack, or we can succeed with this kind of proper management, because I think we are working in the education sector, so it's a big responsibility of ours to utilize this youth in the that national building or for the more demographic dividend. But very unfortunately we are looking that he helpless to this kind of process due to the some kind of more detail and depth I think required for the policy making for the use of this. Now, if you go for the challenges and lack of the macroeconomic that consensus, which talks about the role of multilateral institutions, and that role indicates with the help of international institutions like IMF, World Bank, and WHO talks about the lack of macroeconomic consensus about the developing consensus, and that the ensuring coordinating macroeconomic policy across the member countries, which is required. It is also required to ensuring the effectiveness and transparency and accountability in the macroeconomic policies. Also, it important said with the G20 about the keeping priorities in the site, like that the check in the risk and overchecking mandate regarding the help in the shaping and the strengthening global architecture, and facilitate the governance and all major international economic issues which require to look. As sir given many kind of indices which require to maintain. If you go further that GGI means Good Governance Index, India using recently I think only 3 or 4 states are doing work in the Good Governance Index, and they were published about the very poor performance. As my knowledge right now in the 23, that the good governance report which is published at the national level, it indicates the only means Gujarat and Jammu Kashmir and Maharashtra is the third state in the good governance preparation of that report. That report says the very worst situation about the score of governance, which I think much related with the happiness of the peoples, because we as a country, good governance, because in the democracy that is more important, and so that we can say the mirror of the government working. I think it's a very interesting. As a students, I would just suggest that it's open source and that report is available. If you check about the Maharashtra's good governance, you will get that surprisingly what is the scenario of our governance. Many districts of the Maharashtra are in the bottom level, like Mumbai and Thane. We are talking are better in the good governance. But if you talk about the per capita, their governance level, which is the very below and bottom level, so we require to improve for the attract more that income sources or more generation of the growth and other things. So that kind of preparation we require at the national level and also for the international benefits. Impact of the that the frontier technologies right now we are talking about the now AI use and that things which are as a threat also we should look, because India is the labor intensive country. And basically if you go as a students of economics, India has adopted that the mixed economy. That model says that are defined some of the responsibilities to the central government, to the private sectors, and I think for the peoples or individuals, which is very important as an government, their role which is concerned to the social issues, for the education, for the defense, for the health. These are the our responsibility of government. So we should not divert and transform from this. That's why I use that this word that we are in the transforming phase. We don't know tomorrow we will go for the more private or what the further movement of the government, because Basically, when we adopted that the framework of the mixed economy, means based principles from the communism and from the capitalism, but now we are moving more with the capitalism, and I think that again losing our happiness from this kind of transformation. So impact of these technologies we don't know still, but now it's growing with very faster rate, and this will be helpful in some places, or but mostly if there will be used in the all sectors AI, in the agriculture secondary or tertiary sector particularly, because we are the based on the tertiary sector, more growth we are bringing from the tertiary sector. So it's a service related AI suppose will be take place, then what happened about the unemployment, which is very important right now. If you check that the unemployment ratio of the country is very high level, it is around 7 to 8% in an average. Last data which talks about the 7%, which is the very high unemployment rate, and we can't I think say that we will success to take the leadership to the world in this 21st century and demographic dividend, because it has a link. Suppose we are like having this the unemployment rate higher, higher unemployment rate, then how we can success for the this kind of demographic dividend and other resources. If you look about the impact of this technology will be, as I said, that somewhere there is a potential impact with the positive manner in the some kind of governance things, then autonomous things will be or technological things will be growth with this AI reforms, and as a positive impact maybe increase the efficiency of the productivity, job creations is a doubtful, somewhere it will be increase and will be decrease also. That is the my opinion as per the database and that sources. Strategies to the counter and utilize these frontier technologies is required to monitoring development applicability of this, and this should be restricted, that kind of policy which required to take by the India. Also assessment of this AI assistant and policy initiatives are required to adopt for the more attraction of the and benefit of this kind of AI. National initiatives and developing that policies with the development of the technology and funds which require to use in this kind of era. If you will success, then AI can be helpful. Otherwise, again, there is the doubtful for the higher populated country in the world. India's approach and preparation in the context of climate crisis, because we have the theme related to this, I think, environmental and that issue. So, if you check quickly about this slide, the climate risk and uncertainty, which talks about the global climate policies. I think Sanjukta madam is here. She will, I think, focus later on about this issue. But IRA shows that the potential risk in the investment means it is the thing which I think Inflation Regulation Act 2022 IRA restricted some landmarks to the world, and based on that the IRA means Inflation Reduction Act given some restrictions and some opportunities to the member countries. Similarly, that the CBM means that the carbon border adjustment mechanism, means this carbon border adjustment mechanism also now very much influencing to the global activities, and it is also increased compliance will entail that the additional cost for the countries, and international conflicts and wars also are related to this global crisis and climate crisis particularly. In this context, what is the preparation of India? If you look about the annual average loss for the climatic related hazards, which is came here in the economic terms, $93 and to the GDP 3.6% as per the data source of must be in the 2022 is indicating very high kind of this loss which we are taking from this kind of climatic crisis. Similarly, cumulative expenditure on the that 5 trillion economy which we are looking here, details shows that the hazards and mitigation of this requirement which we require to prepare, and then we will can success for the achievement of this. Similarly, if you check about the need of double private sectors and capex improvement for this kind of climatic crisis, climate finance options are also required to mobilize with the proper planning. And similarly, green, social, and sustainable and sustainability linkages (GSSS) bonds also required to utilize with the proper planning. Then we can success, or we can at least defend this kind of climatic crisis from the world. If you go for the India's approach and preparation in this climatic crisis, that impact and changes of the national disasters which require to prepare, because many time with the changes in the global and ecological system, we received so much amount of the floods, like shown in the 1058 that the floods recorded as per the data sources, cyclones, droughts, and cold waves. Means simultaneously, this all the preparation is required for the better performance of the agriculture and other sectors. Very quickly, if you check about the deaths from this kind of natural hazards, which is also very much high, strategic disaster preparation preparedness of the India, which indicates of the climatic resilient infrastructure we require to use for this kind of defense of the that crisis. Promoting climate friendly activities are required. Strengthening multi hazards early warning systems are also required. And agricultural, that climate means agricultural sector must be protected from this kind of climatic crisis. So government disaster relief funds, as per the government of India, Odisha state has shown little better management about this as per the Niti Aayog report. Similarly, higher allocation of the state disasters and responses found that the financial allocations as per the 15th Finance Commission, and disaster mitigation infrastructure like in the early warnings and dissemination system which required to install for the more benefit. So I think that the climatic, in briefly about the slides, both slides, I can talk that the climate crisis which are more I think harmful right now as per this kind of indicators to the least developed countries and developing countries, they require more preparation for the more benefit of this. I think if you come for the India's resilience and the outcome of the poem, I think time due to time constraint, it will go fast. About this, the long-term initiatives of the India for the better attraction of the this development process. What the initiatives are decided by the government of India about they working with this kind of many issues or points or factors. From that, I think I would say that about the major thrust to the capex, because it's a expenditure related thing. Price stability, which is also government of India monitoring through the monetary policy or fiscal policy, means as per that requirement they are they are taking initiatives for the revival of the investment levels and large scale of digitalization. They are preparing with the plans for the most attraction of the youth and other income sources from this kind of activities. Financial inclusion, delivery basic services, and all these kind of renewable sources and focus, which shows the positive initiatives. But I would say, as a researcher of economics, in the documentary level, there is so many, that the policies are initiated by the government of India. But at the ground level, how much they are working is the question mark. Because if you look from the beginning or from the independence, so many policies from the planning commission and separate budgetary provisions shows so many allocations of fund, but then still why this is the around 80 crores people are required that the food security act or they require the food coverage from the government is the, I think, question for us. If one side we are claiming that India is now reduce the poverty lines or poverty ratio, it's allow as per the Niti Aayog criteria Means earlier that the Tendulkar committee, which was talking in the 2010 about that the some criteria, and as per their estimation, it was which was found around 21%. But right now, India's Niti Aayog claiming that the reduction of poverty is around 5%. One side they are talking or claiming 5%, and recently government of India announced that the 80 crores of the peoples are required of food support from the that rationing and food supply. So it's a contradiction which looks in the economic as a economics person. I think that we require to implement and account the policy, that is the concern regarding these initiatives. So I think if we put that the success for the accountability of this, and I would just extend one more thing for the researcher and particularly for the students. Many times we are talking the social science don't have the scope for work and jobs. As a person of economics, I would say that or share that in the social science, as a person of economics, this is our responsibility to account all the economic policies of government, and it has a scope for economics peoples. Also for the sociological peoples, they have that scope to evaluate and give the report, research report to the government for the proper implementation of the social issues. Geographical peoples have that kind of scope. Our earlier structure of this is very beautiful. With the experience of implementation, I would share the, you will not believe, I am leading the project of Maharashtra government, only one department, water resource management, around the 7 crores project from the last 3 years. Now, second project I received from the 4 crores rupees from again same department. This is the only related to the water management. So many things are there regarding food security, regarding that, as I said, in the sociology, what are the sociological changes and transformations that happen, what is the tribal benefit schemes are working, that accountability, suppose we will look as an academician and researcher in a serious manner, then policymakers and government will take consideration of your work definitely, and this is the scope for the, I think, for the all the social sciences. So I think we require to utilize this kind of things for the effective benefits, and if our peoples will, our policymakers and our administrators will be work according to the reports of the researcher and academicians, then I think that the Vikashit Bharat, we can claim कि we will success for that. Otherwise, there is the experience is that suppose we are dropping some criteria from the poverty line and claiming that if 5% is the poverty, then this is the not. This is called the bubble of that growth. As we are claiming, China is like behaving like this. So I think that kind of preparation is required. At the end, I would just take a 1 minute. We are talking about the India, as Vavare sir mentioned that India is now becoming very soon as a 5 trillion economy. So for that details, what is our preparation? What is the per capita income of the country? We should check. If you check about the other country who is first rank in the that income, that is the United States of America, USA. What is the income, total income of GDP? Quantum of them is the 26,954 USD billion dollar. What is our quantum of the, means India's quantum of the this same parameter? It is in 3,730. Okay, means if you compare how much times they are far from us. Okay, similarly, if you go for the China also on the 17,000 billion dollar. Other country like the Germany, which is on the around a 4.500 thousand USD dollar, and we are suppose we want to come on the 5 trillion, then we require to maintain around around a 20% CAGR for the success of this 5 trillion. This is the one thing. Is it possible? So as a researcher of economics, I would say no, not possible. This is one thing. Another thing, if you are talking about the quantum, of GDP, this is thing. But what is about the per capita income of the India? This is another parameter which says that the USA's per capita income is 80, around 80 USD dollar, 80,000, sorry, 80,000 USD dollar is a USA. Then another China, because it's overpopulated. We can say कि ठीक है USA का economy is the limited like the 30 crores or 20, 32 crores. But China having 12.54 thousand per capita income, and India's per capita income in the terms of same 2000 USD, so 2000 USD dollar. So how much preparation we required for this kind of Vikasit Bharat? We should think as a researcher, and I would say that this is forget about the USA and that country, but as the Vietnam and other that the countries like the Canada, Brazil, France, they are very far from us in the per capita income terms. So we can't claim that suppose our size of income is increased, then we are the Vikasit Bharat. When we will take, because we are recently declared that the first rank country in the world about the population. Suppose we will success for the good average of the per capita income. That is also ideally not a correct terminology, because we are going to just calculate total income divided by population. In a reality again is the, as sir mentioned, that the most of the poor people also we have and most of the rich people also we have. These are the paradox which is there. So I think seriously we require to come forward for the terms of reality. First of all, suppose we will accept the reality, then we will go for the improvement. That is more important for the country of India to take more benefits from the domestic and international level. So I think thank you to everyone for listening to me and for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. In your address, you have made the comprehensive analysis regarding the making Vikasit Bharat in a real sense. And one more thing that you have mentioned in your address is the acceptance of the reality and thereafter the implementation of the remedial measures. That is the key thing which will make real Bharat ground reality. Now we are the next, before proceeding with the formal vote of thanks for the inaugural ceremony, we are going to have the felicitation ceremony for the newly elected and the nominated members of Board of Studies in the subject of Geography,